Hey y'all, welcome back to the Power and Lifting Podcast. I'm your host, Solana Lewis, and today I speak with Kristen Dunsmore. We dive into what we believe are the qualifications you need to begin your journey as a powerlifting coach. We also dive into what we did to start our journeys as we began into the world of powerlifting coaching. And it was a good chat, y'all. Like, we had to think back to when we first started coaching, kind of think about what we were reading and what we did to learn about how to program, how to coach. And then we talked a lot about how there's different resources today that are much easier to find that directly talk about how to program and how people should take advantage of those if they're going to start coaching. So good chat. I really enjoyed it. I love talking to Kristen all about coaching. And so I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and please don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please leave a 5-star rating and review. I appreciate it very much. And let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. All right, y'all. I'm back with Chris D.
What's up?
Well, I guess we're gonna hear Chris C. It's Chris and then D, like Chris Dunsmore, not Christy.
That's how it started. My Instagram was Chris D, and I've had that since over 10 years now. And now, no, my name is Kristen, but no one ever calls me that. It's Chris. Apparently, that's my name now. So Chris D is how I'm introduced to people.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, do you like being called Chris? You're just used to
Oh,
it now?
I don't care. Yeah, I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter. I'm used to it now. Fine.
I'm so particular. Like, people have tried to give me nicknames, like, "Oh, can I call you Soul?" I'm like, if you add Anna at the end, yeah. Like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you
You
cannot
know,
use a nickname.
I feel like now everyone is just referred to by their Instagram handle.
Yes. And so my full name's in there too, so I'm like, there's really no excuse here. I need the whole name in there, like
Yeah,
Solana, whatever.
Solana Lifts. Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna talk to Solana Lifts today.
All right, y'all. So I like our topic for today. Me and Chris brainstormed. Plus, we did a little not Q&A, an Ask Me box for people to give us topics. And thankfully, people gave you some good topics because people give me topics to ask you questions as if I'm going to interview you. So now I know going forward, if I'm asking for topics, be clear. Like, me and Kristen are going to talk about a powerlifting topic. What should that topic be? Not
Yeah.
interview Kristen about.
The same question I get asked every other time.
I know, I feel badly. Oh,
That's
it's
all
all
right.
about your butt cheek.
Yeah, my butt hates me. It's fine.
All right, but so I'm gonna read the question directly. It is from Jurassic Mike.
Okay.
Get to call him out. Thank you for giving us the question. What do you consider the minimum qualifications to provide coaching for beginners?
The minimum qualifications. That's tough.
I know.
So,
I'll start it.
minimum qualification. Yeah, you go, and then I'll probably think of something.
So we know everyone likes to be a coach. We've all experienced a person who does one meet and then they're like, yeah, coaching link in bio, and you're like, you just did your first meet and you figured out how to squat to death in the last attempt, but you tell people how to do it. All right, awesome. But I will say, and I'm really pulling this out of butt here, but I think you should be at bare minimum have been competing for at least 2 years consistently. And in my mind, I see that as doing 5 to 6 meets, because 2 to 3 a year, bare minimum. Okay. And then from there, I think you need to have been going out of your way to research how to program. Today is way easier than when me and you got started. What I did before I started coaching, so I've been competing for 2.5 years. And a lot happened that time. It was first meet and then first nationals after that, and then went to worlds and didn't know what was going on, but won it, and then kept going. So a lot happened that time. I also have my degree in exercise science. I'm not gonna pretend that really helped with programming, but it helped with some stuff. And I've been working as a personal trainer already for 4 years. So for me, I was just already experienced with training people. So throughout that time, I was like trying to understand programming. I was reading a lot of Juggernaut. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
Chad would post, he had a book out too. I read that. I read, what was it called? The trifecta theory? No, what?
Triphasic.
Oh my God, thank you. Triphasic training. I read triphasic
Yeah,
training, which is great for just, getting helping people get strong, but it's really not for like warm up max. But like, that's what we
that
have.
was what the heck is his name? He used to be the strength and conditioning coach for the Carolina Panthers. I think that's the book you're, because it's
Then
more of like a strength and conditioning kind
yeah,
of pro. Yeah. Okay. I can't
it
think of
was
his
not for
name. It's
powerlifting.
gonna come to me and like right when we're ending, I'm gonna just shout a random name
Of course.
and people would be like, what? And then it used to be like, oh, because I remembered.
Did you read a book? It was like an MMA book that everyone was reading to help you like use a
Oh,
stronger. I read that book like 4 times.
really? I do remember that book too. And I also forgot the name of the author. Oh my God, I'm horrible.
Me too. It was this MMA book that everyone was using it because he was teaching how to like use certain cardios to help you
Hmm.
like between sets so you recover better for strength training. So I
Yeah.
was obsessed with that book, and it will come to me too. It's probably in my email, honestly,
Do you
somewhere in
remember
there.
what it said?
I remember that's how I learned Oops, I'm literally on Instagram. That's how I learned HIRT, high intensity resistance training, and then I
Oh,
would have like, a bunch of my clients doing like weighted step ups for like 20 minutes straight. It was one step up per 5 seconds for 20 minutes straight. And it was supposed to help your type 1 muscle fibers, which are used for aerobic capacity, help turn some of those into type 2 so that you could then recover faster when you're doing strength training. That was like a big part of the book.
really?
Yes.
Oh my God. I do
Yes.
not remember that part. Wait, so you had your clients doing step ups for 20 minutes?
It would be like, okay, to be fair, it was the clients who asked for cardio, and I was not
Okay.
one to say, yeah, just go run, or yeah, just go like walk. I was like, you're gonna do 20 minutes step up. Now I will say though, I did it myself. It did help me in between like those sets to like
Yeah,
have the recovery versus doing
I
nothing.
guess in theory, would that be like doing the Stairmaster
It could be, but you
kind
would have
of?
one step per 5 seconds, and it would have to be hard. So, like you have to add like a weighted vest or like hold
Oh my
dumb.
God.
So you could, but I don't know how you go that slow on there. And
Yeah, that
there
just,
was their version of hit, but their version of hit was like 10 seconds on. It had to be either sprinting on a bike, like really fast, pedaling on a bike, or a Versa climber. I
ugh.
don't know if those are. I actually love Versa climber. He could use your arms. Or sprints like up an incline, and it was 10 seconds really hard and then 50 seconds off.
Oh my
That
God.
for like 10 minutes and you try to get to 15 minutes. Like anywho,
So,
it's been on a tangent about this book. I'm gonna get you y'all. I'm gonna put the book in the show notes just so you can read it. It's not gonna help you with powerlifting, but if you just want to know what the hell I'm talking about, I'll put the book in the show notes. Anywho, but what I will say is, I think with today we have so much like information. Like we have literally powerlifting now with like 4 powerlifting coaches who are putting out information about exactly what to do to program and so much about powerlifting. We have YouTube channels that give you direct info for powerlifting. Like we have Marcellus Williams, we have Stephen Novi. Like, so I feel like along with at least a minimum tiers competing, you should be constantly on a weekly basis educating yourself and then writing out programs. And then I will even say, like, go to a coach who's willing to help you and be like, does this program like make sense? Like, does the structure of this programming make sense that you will at least say, okay, it's something someone could try
mhm.
that like is realistic. Obviously, you don't have the actual human being, you don't have a guinea pig yet, so you can't see how they progress. But I feel like that could be like at least a bare minimum. And when I say bare minimum, I mean like this is what it takes to then start coaching your friends for free. like, like that's what I mean by bare minimum. Like, so now you can like offer programming for like $0 to your friend or for like $30 just to say you get something out of it and give it a shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of powerlifting coaches on the internet now. And I think what pisses me off even more is like some of them probably have more clients than I do just because they're better at marketing than I am.
Yeah.
And so now that you gave your insight, I would say the minimum qualifications is, um, I mean, I would say competing for sure. Just because I think that you can't, you will never understand your athlete until you've done a competition yourself. So, I mean, whether that's 3 or 4 meets or 5 meets, I don't know. But definitely having at least some competition meets under your belt, ideally, like I would say beyond just the local level, like if you've competed at nationals, even because it is different, right? Like competing at nationals versus a local meet. And then obviously understanding the rules is important. If you're going to coach someone, you should know uh what the rules are. Like I've seen some really fun, interesting stuff at these some local meets before with coaches. um I would say that education is a plus, but like you said, exercise science didn't really, it's not going to teach you powerlifting programming specifically. I think it's helpful because it makes you maybe understand like physiology and what's happening when you lift weights and how your muscles are getting bigger.
I can
But I
honestly
don't.
say, like, physiology was like, I feel like the only thing that helped me as a coach that I spent
Yeah.
years and $50,000 on.
Yep.
I could have taken a course somewhere else. That was pivotal. You understand, first of all, where your bones are, okay, and then what muscles are there, and then that's
Yeah.
huge. But like, that was it. Nothing
Yeah.
else.
So I would say it's helpful, but I don't think that it has to necessarily be a requirement. Um, but at least someone who's active in learning. So at least if you're reading, maybe doing your own kind of research, but at least actively learning is important. Um, and what else? I would say having a coach of your own too, an experienced coach, because they can kind of be your mentor. And I find that most coaches in general are going to program and coach how their own coach coaches, and then as you get more comfortable, maybe you kind of add your own little flavor to it. But like for myself, I know for a long time I programmed the way that my old coach would, and then when I started working with another coach, like I kind of changed up my ideas a little bit, and then like it was more heavily on, so like I worked with Zach Robinson from Data Driven Strength for a little while. And I once I started working with him, it was like my training style kind of blended to how he programmed. So I think working with a reputable coach, because if you have a shitty coach and he's giving you shitty program, you don't want to be giving out shitty programs. Um, but yeah, so I guess that would be my minimum. And then of course working, you can't just all of a sudden be a coach and then decide you're going to start charging for training. So the final component would be working with friends and family and offering to give them free coaching. And that way you can learn and get some feedback from them before you actually start, turning this into a coaching business.
Yes, that's huge. Especially, I'm happy you mentioned the coach thing because the entire time before I started coaching, I had an online coach because I
Yeah.
immediately, when I discovered the sport of powerlifting, I got a coach right away.
Yeah.
And that online coaching was huge because it really showed me, like, at least, okay, here's how they deliver the program. Here's how I'm getting stronger. I have all this data to look at. Okay, this is how he makes adjustments when things aren't going well. That gave me a lot of insight. Where if I had never seen an online coaching program besides Googling it, I would have never been able to like understand how to coach somebody online at all.
Yeah. And there's a lot of programs that you can buy for free online, right? Or buy for free that are free. But it's just like it's a program, it's like I don't know, 3x5 at 70%. Very basic. And then how do you modify that depending on the athlete? And then of course, like, once you learn that some athletes might respond to higher volume, other athletes seem to respond better to maybe higher intensity or practicing more singles more frequently. Those things, and this is like data that you can track over time with like a good Excel spreadsheet or a good coaching software, that you're not going to get from just a free program that you found on the internet.
Yes, and that's why, just like you're saying, like, and I mentioned, okay, that's the bare minimum to start coaching for free, like for
Yeah.
$0. Because you do need to have people who worked with you as a full-on client, and you took them through an entire program and got them to the platform, and you see how it goes. Because I believe for myself, because I started like 2018 when I just started dabbling in online coaching, but I was still doing full-time personal training. But it wasn't until
Mhm.
2020 when I went fully online. And
Really?
yeah, before that, it was like I had like up to 8 online clients the entire time because I was more focused on it in person, but also I didn't feel comfortable taking on a lot because I was really trying to learn, like, how can I really get this person stronger and progress them. And then we do 2 meets and 3 meets, and I'm thankful to people who I started with, because I will say I started charging, it was like $40, but I did start charging right away because I do
Yeah.
believe that some people, if you don't charge anything, they won't even like respond to you. So I feel like it's okay to charge a little bit just to like the person, like, all right, I did pay you. Like, maybe I should actually do it. And that's how I got my people to kind of stick with me. But yeah, like by the time I got 2020, I had people who started with me in 2018, and 2 years went by and like they stayed with me the whole time. I took them to like 4 meets. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They got stronger the whole time. They had injuries that the programming cleaned up just because they had like bad coaching before. It wasn't even like they're really injured. Just like, okay, well, if you burn them into the ground with certain things and don't tell them to even warm up, like, they're gonna.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
that was huge for me.
I don't know. I think another one too that people, and this, I don't think this would be a bare minimum, but and this is also not a good way to gauge a coach too. So I just want to throw that out there. But like, who is the coach coached, right? So if you're looking for a coach, um, who have they worked with in the past, and what is that athlete? How is that athlete done? Now, there's like some caveats to that, because if you're working with an elite athlete who's already elite and then they take you on, or you take them on as a client, like, is it your coaching that made them elite, or is it just because you're lucky enough to work with a genetic freak?
Yes.
um and again, I don't think that would be a great way to determine like a coach, because I think that there's also coaches who work with really good athletes, but maybe they're not great coaches, they just have a lot of clout.
Yeah.
um and it kind of makes you wonder how good the athlete could be potentially if they were like under a good program, but anyway.
Well, I also think the opposite too. I fully agree with that, but it's also the opposite where like you might have a few clients, like the person reaches out to a client who straight up is not on top of their stuff outside of the gym. Because I used to be an athlete.
That's, yeah.
I was the athlete who, like, I took powerlifting seriously, so I didn't miss a session, but I was surviving off fast food. I drank more coffee than water. I slept 4 hours a night. I was working 3 jobs at one point. I had a point where in my life where I was starting to fall asleep driving, and I got nervous for my own life because I was
Oh
like,
my
oh,
god.
my life's a mess. And like that's when I worked with a different coach, and like I wasn't progressing, and I felt bad. I did not communicate everything happening in my life at
Yeah.
all. So it was like just going downhill, but it was like, well, how can we really do a good job here? So if you had reached out to me back then, and I remember I didn't have this perspective yet, I would have told you this coach was mediocre.
Yeah.
But they were good. They're still a
Yeah.
great coach today. It was me. So like you should reach out to a couple of people maybe that they coach.
Oh, 100, yeah, 100%. I always say like, so like when I offer coaching, I'll always do an initial call, like consultation pretty much, just because I think, coaches have different personalities, right? Like, if you want someone to like, be over your shoulder with everything you do and be very like militant, that's not me, because that's just not my personality, right? So I do think that I guess shopping around, but that's actually what you're doing. Like, you're shopping for a coach, right? And so for newer coaches, like, I think that would be important too, is like offering some sort of free call, or at least an incentive for them to talk to you and get to know you better.
I agree with that too. That's huge. Like I do it's technically a 15-minute consultation, but like it's really up to half an hour. It's
Yeah.
half an hour if we're vibing. It's 15 minutes strictly if we're not vibing.
If you're
All
trying to get off the call, you're like,
right.
gotta go. Great. Thanks for talking to me.
No,
Bye.
God bless, and then good luck with your search. But that just happens sometimes where you're like, I don't think our personalities will go well. And I even have
Yeah.
someone who is starting with me very soon, and they had coaches before me, and like the coaches aren't necessarily bad, but there's one coach they mentioned, they're like, we just our personalities clash so much that I started to just not love it. And I
Yeah.
knew it was like the coach. And that's okay, because I've had clients who like stay with me for 3 months, and then we both kind of mutually decide they should go somewhere else. And I'm like, we just aren't, I don't know, like it's not gelling. I'm trying my best, but we ain't
Yeah.
gelling.
Yeah.
Because I ever had
No, that's
like
true.
where you actually told someone this coach might be a better fit for you because me and you are just, and it's obvious at that point too. The other person's not that happy either.
No, I can't say that I have. I mean, no, I haven't. I've had people who like want to start doing weightlifting, and I'm like, well, I'm not a weightlifting coach, so I can put weightlifting exercises into the program, but I'm not comfortable cueing you. And if you're trying to do a meet, you should probably go with a weightlifting coach. If I've had a coach or a client who is just, I just kind of cross my fingers and hope that they leave, to be honest. Like, if they're working with me, I'm going to do what I'm, supposed to do. But once they kind of like, hey, I think this, going to part ways, I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. That's totally what mostly happens. Like that's what happened to me like one time where I actually stood like, hey, I think you should go somewhere else. But to be honest, clearly they wanted West Side programming, and I don't understand how they got the idea that I would give them that because our call went so well. I looked at their
Yeah.
programming; it was not West Side. So, but every response was them not being happy because they literally wanted like blow your back out RP 10 singles on a weekly basis for every lift. And like when I tell you, it made no sense. By the time they left me, they were on track that week to hit a new 3-rep max for their squat and deadlift. And we were about to do a single of their bench, like 5 pounds less than their 1-rep max, like RP, like 7. Like they were
And
doing,
they left.
and they left because they were just like, I just want heavy singles. And I'm like, you're 6 months out. Why would I give you all singles?
Yeah.
RP
Well,
10.
if you want to do West Side, why don't you go to a West Side coach?
I was like, nothing about my content shows that I would have given you what you asked for. So I was like, yeah, God bless you. Goodbye. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
responded. Like, when they agreed, I gave them like a one sentence reply, and I was like, I'm done. Like,
Really? Oh. You're like, okay, bye.
here,
I
let
will
me.
say that I think like the coach athlete relationship is huge. And I think that's something that like people and we might have talked about this on a previous podcast, but the coach client relationship and the problem with doing something like a template, and there's always going to be pros and cons to that, but one of the main cons would be like if you're working on a template or working out of a template, you don't really have access to a coach where, hey, maybe you haven't been sleeping well, or you've been traveling a lot and falling asleep at the wheel, and eating fast food. Like all those things are going to have an effect on performance. And as a coach, when someone tells you that, it's like it's your job to kind of modify, as needed. And if you're, and this is something maybe even as a newer coach too, right? Where it's like they have a program and they're really great at programming, but what happens when your athlete, gets injured, or um, super stressed, some life event, their, I don't know, boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with them and they're all like upset and not training, and like how do you modify that? And these are things that I think come with experience that you can't just kind of, I don't know, like it's something you just have to learn on your own. You don't know it offhand, if that makes sense. I feel like I just went on a tangent there.
Like, it really was not. That does make a lot of sense. And I will say, too, I was very happy that the coach I worked with before I started coaching, he would do a weekly check-in where you ask some
Yeah.
questions out that were not all about just in the gym, but outside the gym. Because I've definitely made mine more detailed now. But that's a huge one where like if I can get insight on like your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, and then if I see the stress is like past the 7, I'm like, all right, like something happening, like because that's
What's
what's
going
really gonna
on?
help you, especially when you track your clients closely and you're like, numbers are all going not the right way. Before I change this program, fill out
Hmm.
this for me. Like what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a client recently. She's like in meet prep, right? So like she is doing a lot of singles, heavy singles, and everything was going great. And then like within the last it was like 2 weeks, because it was like the first week sometimes it's like, all right, let's just kind of like see how it goes. But it's been like 2 weeks where she's starting to see like a reduction in performance. I'm like, what's going on? Like, because you were doing well, and I know we just came off of like a light little deload leading into this like peaking block. Like there's something else. And so I kind of just asked her, I was like, hey, is everything okay? Like I know training's kind of hard, but like are you okay? And just that question is, are you okay? And then she kind of let me know what was going on. And then when she said that, I was like, okay, like that makes sense. Now I know what to do. Now I can modify your training appropriately. Even if it's like I need a mental day and just like take a day off from training, and then, like we'll make up for it later on in the week kind of thing.
Yes, that I mean, it's really huge when you can get your clients to, like communicate what's going on inside the gym. So that's a big one. Like if you're gonna start coaching, make sure you're asking questions. I would say just have a weekly check-in sheet. Like I think everyone needs one. Like it
Yeah.
makes it easier
Yeah.
because there'll come that time where all of a sudden things are weird. And like I remember I was newer, I would always go to change to adjust in the program if I saw numbers were just not going the right direction without necessarily asking if anything else was happening. Cause like I'd
Yeah.
be talking to the client, but I would just ask questions about the gym, like how you feel today. Oh, fatigue. Okay, I didn't ask if you slept well though, or if you ate. I just but
Yeah.
fatigue, I gotta pull back. And it's like maybe you didn't have to pull back at all. And now you're making all these adjustments and like, oh no,
Yeah.
it might go downhill.
Yeah, and that's yeah, and so it's like some in those situations, instead of changing the program, it's like, all right, well, this week I want you to try to get at least 7 hours of sleep
Yep.
this week, and that's going to be my adjustment. Or like increase your protein intake, or whatever the issue is. But there's so much that goes into programming beyond just training, and just as a coach, um being able to like work with your client based off of life stress, not just training fatigue.
Yes. Now, the next question I want to dive into is what are your requirements or even maybe bare minimums that how do I ask the question? Your requirements to take on a new client, basically. Like, do you have any particular thing where you're like, you have to have this much experience, you have to have done blah 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 in order to work with me, or just like, hey, as long as we do the call and we are vibing and you have some goals that make sense, they're smart, let's do it.
So I've kind of opened up so for a long time I was and I still am, powerlifting coach. That's my niche. I'm consider myself like well versed in powerlifting coaching. um but I also realize that it's a very small niche, and if I want to grow and expand and help others, you're probably going to have to transition more to general training. So I don't really have like I work with clients who have competed at Worlds. I've worked with clients who have never stepped foot on the platform yet. And we're learning the basics. I have clients who have no desire to compete, and they just, like working out because it feels good, and they're getting older. So yeah, I guess I don't really have a requirement. Um, Yeah, I can't say that I have a requirement other than like if I'm full at capacity and I just can't take you on at the moment. What about you? Do you have like a minimum?
I do. I think they're
You
all
do?
very fair. So for me, I'm
Hmm.
actually I kind of am the opposite of you where I niche down to just powerlifting And I
Yeah.
won't take you on unless you want to compete in powerlifting. You don't have to have already competed, because I take on plenty of beginners, but you have
Yeah.
to want to compete. If we get to a point together later on where like you're like, we want to break from powerlifting, we want to keep coaching, that's fine. As long
Yeah.
as you get stronger. You can't be like, yeah, I just want to like do Pilates. Like, okay, well then get a Pilates
Then
coach.
go get a Pilates coach.
So for me, I have some basic minimums. You have to at least been consistently squatting, benching, and deadlifting with the barbell for 6 months. You cannot come to me saying you've never done a barbell back squat and you want me to get you to a platform, because I think that online coaching, can I get you doing that? Yes, but it's gonna be tough if you've never even done a barbell back squat to get you like to follow the program well. And like I have to do a lot of teaching with video, where I feel like at that point you might need to do something in person with someone just to understand how to move underneath the bar before you get to
Yeah.
me. So 6 months of SBDing on your own consistently too. Like I'm like, if you tell me like, oh yeah, I'm in and out the gym, like I won't take you. But if you're like, hey, like I have been consistent for the last
Yeah.
6 months, I train 3 times a week, that's fine. Um, and then yeah, you have to want to desire competing. It doesn't have to be soon, but you have to be like, I want to step on the platform. That's really it. So I think it's very fair. It's just like I won't take someone who's never stepped foot in the gym. And if you don't want to compete in the sport, I just feel like personally, there are other coaches that will definitely take you on who will love to work with you. But I'm so obsessed and
With
in love
powerlifting.
with powerlifting that I know I won't give them the type of attention they would really need, because I would definitely, I don't want to say favor, but I would definitely want to work more with people who are powerlifting, because that's what I love. And I would never want to have someone pay me the same rate. And I know deep down I'm not giving the same kind of attention. So I take people on who I know I'll give them my attention. Um,
Yeah.
and then
And it's
funny enough,
easier.
like I my whole roster is women, but I do take on men. Just know I do.
Are all of them women? That's so funny.
100% women, 30
That's
women.
good though.
I
Good.
love it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm like, just so you know, it's not a requirement. So you
This
can.
isn't on purpose.
Good.
Uh, that's funny. I did have I guess one of the I mean, now that we're on the topic of coaches and female coaches or the lack thereof, especially reputable coaches, I feel like there's just not a lot. And so it's interesting because I have clients who they want to work with women specifically just because like they're women, they feel more comfortable. We got monthly shit going on that, it maybe you're not comfortable talking to, a male about, that's fine. And so I'll have women who come to me specifically because they're more comfortable working with a woman. Um, but then, it's like off the top of your hand, like who do you think of as female coaches? Like there's not a ton, right?
Like
So
for me, if you're like, okay, give me top three female coaches in powerlifting, like right now, like not thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, Kelly Mann,
female,
yeah, female. I say Kelly Mann, I know she's kicking butt, and I love her content, and I know she's gotten people super strong. And I'd be like, okay, I would think of you, and then I'd be like, okay, who else? Sam Calhoun, like she coaches, she got a full team, and they
yeah,
all wear her shirt and scream, "Don't be weak," and they're such a family. I'm like,
they're
clearly
so
going
funny.
over there, but that'd be like just who I think of on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm trying to think of who else. Like, I'd have to think about it for a
Yeah, it's
minute,
hard
as
for
opposed to
men.
like
I don't have to think at
you
all.
can name, yeah, you can name 10 right like off the bat. So, but that's good that you have, I mean, have females that want to work with you.
It's I love it so much, and also it's like I remember when I started to make my content, because the reason I have all females, like my content just seems to be geared more towards female. I think now it's more neutral, but like it was definitely heavy on like I want women stronger in sport, which is what I do want and love.
Yeah.
But I remember
Well,
being scared, because I'm like, yo, powerlifting's already a niche, and now I'm just talking a lot to women. But it was the best decision I could have made to like really niche down that way, because the people who come to me for coaching, 9 out of 10 times are a perfect fit for me.
mhm,
I may not have people coming every single day for coaching, but I will get a good amount of inquiries to the point where like I'm at full capacity, and like they are all females who want to compete, who understand
yeah.
the idea of how I coach is due to paying attention to my content for a while. And I'm like, this
Mhm.
is great because I just get people who like vibe.
And that's why I think it's important to like provide content. And some people might get annoyed with it. but it's like you're providing free material, free advice, free education. And I think that's important, especially as a, if you're a lifter and you're looking for a coach, you want to work with a coach who is knowledgeable and is actively learning. And, if you're posting stuff like that, it's like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. I do think it's funny though when you say that your initially was kind of like the content was geared more towards women. And when I rebranded my business, because before I just had a website, I didn't really have like an official logo or official colors or anything like that. It was just like my website was KristenDunsmore.com. And I'm like, who wants to be like Kristen Dunsmore coaching? Like, that's stupid. So that's kind of why
I
it's
was
like,
just saying, I was like, wait a minute.
yeah, I'm like, who wants to, like Team Kristen Dunsmore? Like, that's so, yeah, when I did it, I was like, well, I don't want to exclude, men or women. I want both. So it has to be kind of like a neutral. I don't want like frou-frou little flowers and pink. It's like I want something that shows like, I work both. I will say that I think working with Juggernaut in the past has helped me just because a lot of their following is mostly males and a lot of them have probably just followed me through them. Um, so I don't know if I'd have as many male clients as I do now otherwise. I would like to think so, but you never know.
See, it's funny too, because for me, I used to be affiliated with Girls Who Powerlift, and a lot of people found me through Girls Who Powerlift. So like that's also kind of why I ended up kind of niching. Cause I was like, I feel like half the time people say it's how I found you. Well, who know? Obviously, women are following them, so like that's who's following them. I was making content for them. They're posting my content like twice a month, so people kept finding me there. And then when I made the powerlifting podcast, like I think the first episode was why women should be in powerlifting, and that I think is still.
Really?
Yes, and that's still like one of my top listened to episodes because like it's the first one you see. So I'm like, it just
Hmm.
kind of happened. And then funny enough, yes, my template is now pink. It's pink, Kristen. Okay, it's pink. I have
Hey,
no.
nothing wrong with that. No shame with
It used
pink.
to be red, and I had one client, only one, no one else, reach out to me and be like, "Yo, the red is so intense. It makes me feel like you're angry," and I changed it to pink.
That's why so like my colors are like a blue color. So this sounds so dumb and I hate admitting this, but the gym that I work out at, the colors, like the racks are red and it annoys me. And I want to be like, can you paint on black because it doesn't go with my Instagram colors? Like
I'm not even mad at you, like
this
because like
doesn't match.
listen, we post so much content from the gym. I'm thankful that at Signature Fitness, like the racks are black, and then we have a room with like all windows, so like the light hits you. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
this works out great. Because I used to work at a gym that was yellow.
Oh
Everything was
God.
yellow. I was like, it's not working for me.
Yeah. The gym that I don't know if you ever see me post videos, but there's a big ass dragon on the wall. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I try to like fight it kind of because it's just a big giant red dragon. And it'd be really cool if like my colorway was red, but it's not. It's all like, can you paint this dragon? Because it doesn't go with my feng shui. I
Imagine
know it
us,
cost you like $10,000 or whatever, but can you just make it blue?
like, don't worry, I'll pay double for my gym membership this 1 month. Like, that won't even cover anything.
Oh, not even close. Not even close. But yeah, when he painted it, I was so pissed, like low key. I was like, no. I'm like, that's so sad though. Like that's my reason that I get like, it's because the gym has red in it. Like
Listen,
what?
listen, we are all out here promoting ourselves online. Okay.
I know. It's just sad when I say it out loud because I was like, I know this is stupid, but it really bothers me.
Well, I think the listeners mostly understand online presence, so they'll maybe understand. I remember I think it's stupid too. Who knows? Who knows? But
Oh, it's totally stupid. They should think it's stupid. I think it's stupid. It
okay,
still bothers me, so whatever. Fine.
another random question though. Who do you have like an ideal client that you like get really excited about when this type of person wants to work with you?
I mean, I like working with elite or strong, very strong athletes. They're just fun to work with, just like, and I'm just going to use Chelsea as an example because she's probably the like top lifter that I have. And she was always like elite, right? Like when even before she worked with me, she was competing and she'd always place top 5 at nationals. And so what's really cool is to take an athlete like that and like take them to the next level, right? So that's been really cool. And she's also just very good at communicating.
Mm-hmm.
So every workout that she has, she leaves comments on like every workout just about. She, posts most of her videos. She's very good at telling me what's like her, I don't know, she's in school and so we've had to do a lot of like adjustments just because of her schedule, but she's very, very good at communication. And you can kind of tell when, you're initially talking with someone, if they're kind of like that type A, or like for me, I'm the opposite. So that's probably why I need someone who's like type A. Um, so yeah, I would say, but those are also very like, how many elite clients are you gonna have? Like 2, maybe if you're lucky, 3 potentially, but they're kind of far and few in between. So, but those are always fun to me. But I really enjoy even beginner lifters too, which is funny because like they're opposites. But then how excited they get with their training, and it's like when they hit a PR every week, or a rep PR, they're just like all the newbie, and they're like PR, PR, PR. They're so excited and so into it, and it's like you just kind of remember when you first started and how fun lifting was, and how like how fast you were getting strong, and how like just a great motivator that was.
Love it.
What about you?
I have 2. So I also
Okay.
have, like when you said, like the beginner, like I love
Yeah.
the exact reason you said, like everything's a PR, like
Yeah.
just ready to get started. And it's fun because a lot of times I will get someone who I'm like, okay, honestly, we need to just get you like to squat, bench, and deadlift more because you're not used enough to movement to really master the movement. And then you need to just build muscle. So like the first program is very much like let's just lift some heavy stuff and then like get you to understand how to properly squat in a way that looks better for you and properly bench. Like it's a lot of like technique in the beginning. And I love
Yeah.
coaching this shit out of technique. I love being all right. I see like 6 problems, and by the end of it, you're gonna look amazing. And it's great because like the more they come to me like with the most jacked up squat, bench, and deadlift, the more they're like so astonished when like by the end of the first block, their squat, bench, and deadlift completely different. And it's just so fun. How I'm like, I feel like I'm working with like a child. A child is
Yeah.
just happy. So
So
it's
let me go ahead. Sorry.
and I was gonna say the other one for me, it's not elite. And to be honest, I've only ever had one person ever come to me who was already like prime time at nationals. So
Hmm.
for me, it's the person who has been competing for, or like at least training for at least a year, and they come to me and they're very type A, and they have all their old programs,
Oh
and
my God, yes.
they themselves have noticed their own trends, and they're like, hey, I'm coming to you because I think I'll make it stronger, but also here's exactly what wasn't working, what seems to be working that we adjusted, and they just have data. Because I was talking to Steve Novi about this. He was asking like, hey, what do like, because I follow product now, and he was like, hey, like, is there anything about our content that you feel like doesn't resonate with you because you have a different clientele that's more beginner? And I was like, a big thing for me is you guys talk a lot about like what to do with the data to get a new client started, and I hardly ever get data. I don't get nothing. They come to me. I've been training
You're a
for a year.
new
They
lifter.
ain't got diddly squat. They were doing
Yeah.
random stuff. I don't know what the hell was going on. Or they show it to me, and it's like this is not even coherent, bro. Like you were just scraps on like just random words. I'm like, forget it. So like that's what
Yeah.
I actually got someone this week who's just like that. Like she's so type A. Gave me her last 9 months of programming. Identified what they adjusted the last month to make it better, what she think wasn't as good and what wasn't working. And I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
just so excited tonight to go through all that and be like, yes, like I get to learn about you so we can like get started in a good direction faster versus like even the beginner, like you can kind of do whatever with the beginner, but at the end of the day, it comes to that point where they're no longer a beginner and you have to really figure out, okay, what gets you stronger? Do you need volume? Do you need more hypertrophy? Do you need less? Like, and you don't know that at all in the beginning. You're just giving them like squat, bench, and deadlift, whatever.
Yeah. And when you first start off with a client, I find myself not the same program, but you take a program that was probably similar to what they have other athletes that you've worked with in the past that are like maybe a similar body type or experience level. And then you kind of like mold, like over time, that program becomes more individualized, but you're always starting off with not generic, because it's not generic, but more of like a general training block, and then you kind of get more specific as you learn the athlete, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
When you were talking about technique, it's interesting because you not a technique Nazi, but are you really, really adamant about, like perfect technique right in the beginning?
I want to get in there as fast as possible. If I see like really big red flags, like, hey, this is just clearly
Yeah,
TB week or longer.
because what I found, like when I started coaching, I would almost overcoach. So I would see someone squatting, and then I'd have, you know, 12 different cues to work on. And I feel like I overcoached, right? So then they're going to the gym and they're like, I gotta do this, and this. And they're like, wait, what was the first one that I was supposed to? And so with newer lifters, especially, just because they're still learning the movement, and just by practicing more, they're just gonna get better as the motor learning pattern. Um, so I sometimes will just when I look at, unless it's like dangerous, where I'm like, hey, you're gonna like hurt yourself if you keep doing that. Um, I'll kind of just be like, okay, good job. And this time lit like one cue at a time. And so it might take a little bit longer, but I find that it's easier for them to like retain. And then once they've kind of ingrained certain cues, then we move on to the next. But I actually now tend to not under cue, but let them self-correct in a way.
That makes a lot of sense. One thing I say on a lot of my calls, especially with brand new people, I do stress that I tend to give one cue to focus on for the week for each lift.
Yeah.
That's it because yes, overcoaching, I used to do that too for sure.
It's like a
Yeah,
paragraph.
stuff. Oh my god, yes. And they're like, wait, come on now, this is too much.
They're like, oh my God.
What
Yeah.
I found though is like I still end up with like, depending how jacked up they start, a big results difference in the end because if you also program specific movements that kind of restrain them and kind of make them have to self-correct, that
Mhm.
combined with like focusing on that main cue that's gonna clean up a lot of it is huge. Like,
Yeah.
we all had the person who like they have no control when they go down. Like, you get the new person and they're like, yo, like you're just like dropping and trying to stand up and catch yourself. I mean, you just like dropped to the floor. All right. So if I give you tempos or pauses, this is gonna get better without me telling you not to drop down super fast. I can just give you a tempo. Like a
Yeah.
regular person who like doesn't understand anything about leg drive. If I give you tempo and explain how to do tempo really well, I don't have to keep cueing legs, 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 legs. Like
Yeah.
you have to like slow it down.
I still feel like I'm learning how to use my legs in the squat.
And the squat, not the bench.
Yeah. Uh, uh yeah, well, I guess in bench too. My favorite is newer lifters learning to bench, and like the descent is like all over the place. So and it's like just keep the bar straight.
Those ones are fun because yeah, you need a combination of tempo and then also it's like, all right, like I do like the open hand test where I have them have their hands open and they unrack it
Hmm.
up and down. Kind of like the bar is in a weird spot in your hands, but if you can unrack it with your open hands and do a rep, that's probably about where the bar needs to be. Because right
Yeah.
now, like here, or it's like down here, and I'm like, no.
Who is the one? Did we talk about that before? Because I feel like I started using it or I saw it somewhere, but I forget who's the one who kind of
Even though if you can't
is
tell, I
it.
talk to Steve every day of my life. Yeah, Steve made a post about it like a long time ago, and like I bookmarked it, and I use that for every brand new person who like bench looks crazy. I'm like, okay, let's just start here. Like, let's look at the bar on the right
Yeah.
side.
I used to do so especially with newer lifters, and maybe that's probably a better way to have a smooth bar path, but I would put chalk like in the middle of the barbell, And then whatever they hit, like on their chest, I'm like, okay, you have to hit in the same spot every time. And so it'd be funny because like when you're done, it'd be like they just have chalk like all up and down from everywhere that they touch the bar.
That one. That's a good one for the person.
Yeah,
Like they hit like once it's their
everywhere.
then it's is now it's below the bra line. Like, wait, what happened? That's like a 4 inch difference.
Yeah, and so it's like it's fun to cue them because they can visually see, okay, like obviously I'm not touching at the same touch point every rep. So that was a good one. Oh, what other cues do you have? Any fun ones?
Fun cue. Oh, I use the tits to belly cue still. So I will patent that one because I'm the only person I've heard use it. Even though it
Tits to belly.
Tits to belly, yes. So that is when you have that person who arches their back as they start their squat, like to do the whole stripper booty squat. So
Yeah,
all right, because again, I'm mostly female, so I'm like, bring your boobs or your tits like towards your belly button, because right now you're bringing them away from your belly button, and you're like straight up like arching your back, like you're trying to do a stripper thing down a pool. So we're gonna bring
yeah.
it towards the belly button, and then start.
Okay, okay. That's a good one. I used to teach like the hip hinge. I would say have sex at the bar.
Really? What does that even mean? Is that how you can
So
bring it to
like,
the bar? You thrust it?
yeah. And this would be for people who would kind of block out with their low back during the deadlift. So yeah, sometimes to kind of cue the hinge, I would just be like, just have sex at the bar, just squeeze the glutes and thrust, put your hips through. And it works.
Nice.
I don't say that to every client though, because I feel like there's like certain clients you can kind of joke around with, and certain ones that you have to be a little bit more professional. But my clients that I was more friendly with, I would just say something like absurd.
Nice. Other ones? Sumo. I don't, this is not a cue at all, but my client, Shauna, I wonder if she listens to a podcast. So she, first of all, is my longest lasting client right now. I believe we're at 5.5 years, but I can double check that. Um, and one time I told her when she was deadlifting, she looked like a dog taking a shit. And then I
That's
told her how to fix it, and she never fucked it up again. Like she never had her back that rounded ever again. But it was so round. I was like, that was just your spine. You used your spine to lift it. I was like, okay, you know how dogs look when they're pooping? Like, do the opposite. Like, just straight up do the
I feel
opposite.
like that was, I guess that's a good way to like make sure they don't do it anymore, is just humiliate them enough to be like, I will never do that again.
Fair, it was via text message or like audio note, so only she's hearing it. But yes, I guess I
Well,
did.
until now that you just blew her under
Like,
the,
said her
what do you
name.
threw under the bus, and now everyone knows that she squats like a dog.
He brings it up so often. I'll never let it go. So now the whole audience can know. Now hundreds of people can hear it.
There you go. Now everybody knows their secret. So that's why I'm going to tell people, you look like you're taking a shit.
No, you gotta say a dog because
A
you know
dog taking a
the
shit.
nipple thing.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the
It's like
dog
the
thing.
whole humpback. I love it. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story yesterday, but my dog got shit on by a bird.
I saw that.
While she was going for a walk, I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then I was like, I shouldn't laugh too much because karma's gonna come back and I'm gonna get shit on by a bird. So I was like, I should stop not laughing anymore.
I actually have a fear of what are the ugly gray birds that are all around New York City? Are they pigeons?
Pigeons, yeah.
I hate them because I watched my mom get pooped on when I was a child by a pigeon. And when I see them now, I literally like try to like walk far away and like avoid them.
Yeah, they're scary, especially when they're in a flock and you just have like hundreds of them flying over you. And I'm like, one of them is gonna shit. I know it. I always like try to duck for cover.
Well, I think they answered the questions.
Yeah,
That was fun.
yeah.
So overall, intake, don't look like a dog taking a shit when you are deadlifting. And yeah, to work with me, you have to be training with a barbell for 6 months.
There you go.
There you
That's all you
go.
need.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. I will see you soon. And
Yes.
y'all, catch you next time on the Power and Lifting Podcast.